Get your for sale sign ready. Today I'm going to talk about 5 things that you should do when you're selling your house if you want to get the most money possible. And the first thing you have to realize is that people like things that are clean. So if your window blinds are yellow or they're dirty, do what I do. Go to a place like Home Depot or Lowe's and get some shiny new blinds, guys. They don't cost much. They're maybe 20 or 30 bucks. And believe me, you're going to get more than your money back if your house looks better. Speaking of shiny, make sure you pressure wash that entire house and be sure it's clean. That sucker needs to be clean now. The better it looks, the more money you're going to get for that house. It's just human nature. And speaking of human nature, look around your house, look outside. If you got overgrown bushes, shrubs, and gardens full of weeds like this, guess what? People are going to keep driving by and they're going to think, well, that wasn't very well taken care of. And when you're selling your house, a lot of people are going to walk around and see if it's clean. And they're going to say, oh, well, that was well taken care of. And they're going to be looking at all the other houses in the neighborhood, guys. So you want to make sure that yours looks good. And if you don't want to do the cleanup and all the yard work yourself, get somebody else to do it. There's plenty of landscaping companies out there. So the next thing you want to do is figure out how far you want to go in fixing that house up before you sell it. So if your air conditioner is old and it's still running, an air conditioner company these days, it's going to cost between $4,000 and $10,000 to replace it. So in that case, you got to decide how much your house is actually worth. Then you'll figure out if it's a good return on your investment. Now, if you can clean it up and get your air conditioner in good working condition, it's probably going to cost you a little bit of money to get it tuned up, but you're probably going to get a lot more than what you spent when you go to sell your house. Now, if it's a luxury home or a house in a great location, you're probably going to get a lot more money for it if you replace that HVAC. But if your house is something like in a bad location, just know you're not going to get more money for it, guys. So if it's something like that, just knock some money off the asking price of that house. Now, the next thing you want to do when you're selling a house is make sure the whole house has been pressure washed and it's super clean. I mean, super clean. I've had customers who are looking at houses and their price range online. And when we set up an appointment to view a property in person and we walk around that house and you find out not only was that house filthy, but it was cluttered. And it's usually a sign that tells me, hey, it's not been well taken care of, guys. If there are better options out there, I always recommend not to buy that house. So before you sell, make sure the house is super clean because you got a better chance of getting more money for it when you sell it. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to look at the paint on the interior and exterior. So if that paint is not cracked or peeling away, you may want to think about just leaving it alone. If it's a wild color, but let's say you got some really crazy colors or a paint color that went out of style 15 years ago. Changing those colors up, it's going to appeal to a lot more buyers, that's for sure. You might want to think about putting a cheap coat of paint on the walls. At least the house is going to look good. Sure, I don't advise buying the cheapest paint. If you can get your hands on it, if you're living in a house for a long time, guess what? It's going to look better. But if you're selling it, a coat of paint that's clean, fresh, is going to make the house look better and feel better all the way around, and it's going to be easier to sell. Now, I'm here on the floor to point something out. When it comes to making your house look better before you sell it, don't forget the baseboards and the windowsills. You want to make sure everything has been wiped down completely with a wet rag and you've gotten rid of the dust and the grime off of them. Now, above all, don't forget to clean your floors. Look at all this dust. Somebody's going to be walking through that house and that's the stuff they're going to see. And they want to see nice and clean here, guys. So you don't want to have sticky feet walking around the house or feel like they have to wipe their feet off when they actually leave the house. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about when it comes to selling your house, it's relatively large problems with the house. So if you know that the house has electrical problems or plumbing problems or a leak problem, you may or may not get your money back depending on how big those issues are. Now, if your house is sitting on a river in a flood zone and it just flooded for the 4th time, in most cases, you may never get the money back that you try to patch it back up and flip it. And it happened before, it's probably going to happen again. And nowadays, people are wise to the location in flood zones. So if that house has a lot of land around it, you may want to consider the land value instead of someone rebuilding on higher ground. But if you got a house with a big hole in the roof and you can see the sky, that's a problem. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, that's the kind of stuff you got to fix or you're never going to recoup your investment. If you leave it unfixed, guess what? People are just going to lowball you. But if you want to get the most money for your house and you have a house that people really want, it's fairly nice and it's in a popular location and your house is in good shape, you're going to get maximum dollar. So now you know the best way to sell your home for the most amount of money. So if you never want to miss one of these helpful selling videos, remember to ring that bell. See you in the next episode.